Mom.
My father is standing outside. He says he just wants 5 minutes.
5 minutes? After how long?
22 years.
No, don't tell me he disappeared for 22 years and suddenly remembered he had a family.
That's exactly today's story. Welcome back to Becoming Podcast, the place where real-life experiences become meaningful conversations. I'm really glad you're here.
And if today's title brought you here, I have a feeling you're about to spend the next 30 minutes asking yourself, how can people actually behave like this?
You say that like you've already judged the story.
No, I've judged the title. There's a difference.
Really?
22 years? That's older than some university graduates.
You count it? Of course.
By that time, even Wi-Fi passwords have changed several times.
I knew you'd find a way to compare family problems to internet.
Everything in life can be explained with technology.
Please don't start.
Imagine disappearing before smartphones, then returning when everyone is using facial recognition. Even your own child might look at you and say,
Face not recognized. You're impossible.
I try my best.
Okay, let's become serious. Because after reading today's story, I genuinely sat quietly for almost 10 minutes.
Not because it was dramatic.
Painfully real.
That serious?
Yes, because today's story is a quietly carried an entire family on her without anyone clapping for her.
Those stories always hit differently because the sacrifices happen behind closed doors.
Exactly, and that's why I hope everyone watches until the end, not because we're looking for a villain, but because this story asks questions that don't have easy answers. Let's begin. The woman in this story asks us not to reveal her name. She said she isn't looking for sympathy. She simply wants people to understand what a parent's sacrifice can look like when nobody is watching. She begins, 22 years ago, it should have been one of the happiest days of my life. It became the beginning of the hardest season I would ever experience. My husband held our daughter once, just once. He kissed her forehead, told me he needed to travel for work, and he never came back. He disappeared. At first, I defended him. Whenever neighbors asked where my husband was, I always answered, he's working. I know he'll come back. But deep inside, I was trying to convince myself. Weeks became months. Months became years. Phone calls stopped. The little money he promised never arrived. Eventually, silence became my new reality. When my daughter turned 3, she started asking questions. Where is Daddy? I lied, not because I enjoyed lying, but because I didn't know how to explain abandonment to a child who still believed every grown-up told the truth. As she grew older, the questions became harder. Did Daddy stop loving us? Did I do something wrong? Every time she asked, it felt like someone was breaking my heart all over again.
I think I can relate with that. It is not that kind of easy when a child keeps asking that kind of questions.
She continued, people often say single mothers are strong. The truth is, most of us never asked to be strong. Life simply refused to give us another option. I worked wherever anyone was willing to pay me. In the mornings, I sold akara by the roadside. By 10 o'clock, I cleaned offices. Some evenings, I washed clothes for neighbors. On weekends, I helped cater at parties. There were days I worked so much that I couldn't even remember the last proper meal I had eaten. You know, people usually celebrate success. Very few people ever ask, what did it cost? Every naira had an assignment. Rent, school fees, books, uniform, food, transport. There was never enough. If something had to wait, it was usually me. I stopped buying new clothes. My sandals were stitched so many times that the cobbler started greeting me by my first name. I can't remember the last time I bought something simply because I wanted it. One Christmas, my daughter insisted I buy a new dress. I told her I already had one. The truth was, I had seen a beautiful dress in the market. The same money bought her school textbooks instead.
They are sacrifice never see until they become adults.
As children, we usually think our parents just know how to solve problems. We don't realize many of them were making choices every single day. Back to the story. There were nights my daughter would ask, Mommy, aren't you eating? I'd smile and tell her, I already ate before you came home. That wasn't true. I simply wanted her portion to be enough. People praised me for raising a respectful daughter, but nobody saw the night side after she had gone to sleep. I wasn't crying because I hated mother, crying because I was exhausted. Sometimes I wish someone would simply ask me, how are you holding up? Not because they could solve my problems, just because they cared enough to ask.
That part really stood out to me. We must learn to check up on people. Some are going through a lot.
As my daughter grew older, she stopped asking where her father was. At first, I thought she had forgotten. Later, I realized she hadn't forgotten. When she was about 12, She started helping me without being asked. She'd wake up before school, arrange the akara trays, help me pack everything, then rush home after classes to help wash the cooking pots.
She never complained.
One evening, she walked into my room, sat beside me, held my hand, and asked, "Mommy, when I grow up, what's the first thing you want me to buy for you?" I laugh and reply, "Just be a good girl."
That's sweet to hear. The daughter is also thinking of her mother.
See me blushing? That's sweet of the girl. At least the mother knows all her labor will not be in vain over her daughter. My daughter then said, "No, I'm serious. I want it to be my turn." From that day, she's someone carrying two dreams, her own and mine. Every exam result became better than the last. Scholarships followed. Teachers, neighbors began saying, then quietly thank God after they left. The little girl who once helped me sell akara built a successful career, and one afternoon she handed me the keys to a small but beautiful house. She smiled and said, "Mummy, you kept your promise. Now it's my turn to keep mine." And one unfaithful day, everything changed with one knock on the gate. 3 months after my daughter bought me the house, life finally became quiet. For the first time, and rent was no longer hanging over my head. I could sleep through the night. I thought the hardest chapter of my life was finally over. One Tuesday afternoon, it was raining lightly. My daughter was working from home. I was in the kitchen making lunch. Then someone knocked on the gate. The knock came again. This time, it was slower, gentler, almost hesitant. Walked toward the gate. A few seconds later, I heard complete silence. I knew immediately something wasn't right. My daughter wasn't the kind of person who stayed quiet. So I walked outside. She was standing at the gate, frozen, looking at a man I hadn't seen in 22 years. It was my husband. For a moment, I honestly didn't recognize him. Age had changed him. His shoulders were bent. His beard was completely gray. His clothes were old but neatly washed. One of his shoes had been stitched. He leaned slightly on a walking stick, and in his hand, he carried a small nylon bag. He looked nothing like the confident man who walked away years ago. He looked tired, not just physically, emotionally. Then he finally looked at me and said, "I know I don't deserve your time, but can we talk?" I asked him one question, "Why today?" Instead, he quietly said, "I've been sick. Life hasn't gone the way I expected. I've made many mistakes. I just want to make peace before it's too late." I invited him inside, not because everything was forgiven, because leaving an elderly man standing outside in the rain didn't sit well with me. My daughter made him a cup of tea. Nobody knew what to say. The silence felt heavier than any argument. He spoke. I had found a better life. I convinced myself I'd come back after everything settled. Then 1 year became 5, became 10. He told us the woman he left us for had also left him years ago. His business failed. His health deteriorated. He had spent the last few years moving from one relative's house to another. Some welcomed him, others didn't. Then one day, someone told him our daughter had become successful. That's when he finally gathered the courage to come looking for us.
Now that's where my questions begin.
Mine too.
If nobody had told him she was successful, would he still have come?
That's exactly the question I wrote in the margin when I first read this story. He asked if we could become a family again. I looked at my daughter. She looked at me. Is why I'm writing to Becoming Podcast. I genuinely don't know what the right answer is.
That's not an easy story.
No, it isn't. And I think this is where the real conversation begins.
Can I be completely honest?
Always.
The story touched me. The mother's sacrifices touched me. The daughter's success touched me. But
there's no exactly what you're going to say.
Why now? That's the question. Not why did he leave? Not why did he struggle? Why
now? This was the first time he found the courage.
Or maybe this was the first time he needed them. Those are two completely different things.
That's fair, but let me challenge that. Sometimes guilt grows so big that people convince themselves they'll only make things worse by coming back. People delay difficult sessions all the time.
I agree. People avoid uncomfortable conversations for a week, maybe a month, sometimes even a year. But 22 years, that's not hesitation anymore. That's a life.
What I find interesting is that we're both asking about his timing. But I haven't heard you ask about his shame. Imagine waking up every morning knowing you abandoned your own child.
It can. But guilt didn't stop him from living those 22 years. His daughter still had birthdays, school fees, graduations, illnesses, milestones. Life kept happening. He wasn't there for any of it. So when he finally returns, I think it's reasonable for people to ask what changed and why now?
There's another angle nobody talks about. The mother. Survived abandonment, built self again, watched her daughter succeed. The past knocks on her gate. That's not easy.
Sometimes people assume forgiveness is the only thing that matters. But what about healing? Healing takes years, sometimes decades. You can't expect someone to rearrange their emotional life overnight because you've decided you're ready.
And here's something I kept thinking about. Imagine you're finally sleeping peacefully after years of anxiety. Then the very person connected to those painful memories suddenly reappears. Even if they mean well, their presence alone can reopen wounds.
People often underestimate emotional disruption. Not every interruption is loud. Some are silent. You simply stop feeling safe again.
Exactly. And that's why I don't think anyone should judge the mother for needing time.
Time? I'd be surprised if she didn't need it. 22 years is a long time. Let's talk about the daughter, because she's in a unique position. She didn't choose any of this. Successful, independent. The father she barely knows wants to reconnect.
Can I tell you what I would probably do?
Go ahead.
If he genuinely needed medical treatment, I'd help. Not because he earned it, not because I suddenly see him as my father, simply because I don't want another human being to suffer if I have the ability to help.
Interesting, but
Helping him financially wouldn't automatically mean bringing him back into my personal life. Those are two separate decisions.
I actually respect that.
Right.
Because people often think there are only two options, either completely reject someone
Right.
or welcome them back as if nothing happened. Life isn't always that black and white,
Exactly. Compassion doesn't erase consequences.
and consequences don't erase compassion.
I'd pay the hospital bill if it was within my means. I'd make sure he had food. If he genuinely had nowhere to stay for a night, I'd help him find somewhere safe. I don't think I'd suddenly become the daughter he missed for 22 years. That relationship never had the chance to grow.
That's the sentence right there. People hear the word father and automatically imagine closeness. But closeness is built year after year, conversation after conversation, showing up, being present. You can't recreate 22 years in one afternoon.
Exactly.
Can I ask you something?
Go on.
Suppose he came back 10 years earlier, not because you became successful, not because he became sick, just because he realized he had made a terrible mistake. Would you see him differently?
Yes, I think I would.
Really?
Yes, because timing tells a story too. Coming back while the struggle is still happening feels different from returning after the hardest part is over.
I think that if someone only returns after hearing life has become comfortable, people are naturally going to question the motive.
And I don't think that's an unfair question.
Neither do I. Because relationships aren't only tested during celebrations, they're tested during suffering. That's when presence matters most.
Still, we should be careful not to assume motives we can't prove. Maybe he really was overwhelmed by shame. Maybe he truly regretted everything. We simply don't know.
True. We only know what was shared in the story. And based on that, reasonable people can come to different conclusions.
Which is why I think this episode has no simple ending.
And maybe that's what makes it feel so real. Can I ask one last difficult question?
Go ahead.
What actually makes someone a parent? Is it biology or showing up?
Because biologically, he will always be her father. Nobody can change that. That relationship never had the opportunity to grow.
People often confuse titles. Anyone can become a biological parent. Not everyone becomes a present parent.
And being present isn't just about paying bills. It's the little things, attending school events,
Helping with homework.
celebrating birthdays, being there when your child is afraid, encouraging them when they fail. Remember those moments.
I remember someone once said, children may forget what you bought them, but they rarely forget who was there. That has stayed with me.
Absolutely. Imagine this daughter. When she won awards, her mother was there. When she cried after a difficult exam, her mother was there. When she graduated, her mother was there. Every major chapter of her life, the father wasn't part of those memories.
Which means he's not walking into a relationship. He's walking into 22 years of memories. That happened without him.
You know what I appreciate about this story? It doesn't try to make anyone perfect. The mother isn't portrayed as a superhero. The father isn't portrayed as a movie villain. They're both human beings who made very different choices.
Life isn't always divided into good people and bad people. Sometimes it's
Good decisions.
bad decisions and consequences that last much longer than we expected.
One thing I also appreciated, the daughter didn't insult him. She didn't embarrass him. She didn't seek revenge. That says something about the values her mother raised her with.
Yes, her character reflects the person who raised her, not because she ignored the pain, but because she refused to let the pain define her.
There's strength in that, helping someone because of your values, not because they've earned a second chance.
And I think that's where people sometimes get confused. Helping someone doesn't automatically restore trust. Trust takes time. Sometimes it never fully returns.
Exactly. If she decides to pay for his treatment, that's compassion. Not to rebuild the relationship, that's a personal boundary. Those can exist together.
I couldn't agree more.
This is one of those stories where we genuinely don't think there's only one correct answer.
Which is why we'd actually like to hear your perspective.
Let's keep it respectful. Everyone's experiences with family are different.
And here are a few questions we'd love you to answer in the comments.
If you were the daughter, would you help with his medical treatment? Why or why not?
Do you think someone can truly rebuild a relationship after being absent for 2 years? Or are there some moments that simply can't be recovered?
Does being biologically related automatically make someone a parent? Or is parenthood something that's earned through presence?
And here's the one that's been on my mind all day. If someone comes back only after your life has improved, would you see that as genuine regret?
There are no right or wrong answers, just conversations. And that's exactly why Becoming Podcast exists.
I'll leave today's episode thinking about one sentence. Sometimes showing up late doesn't erase the years you didn't show up.
And mine is different. Kindness doesn't always mean reopening a closed chapter. Sometimes it simply means refusing to become bitter.
If today's conversation made you think, share it with someone. You never know who might need to hear it.
And if you're new here, welcome to Becoming Podcast. This is where real life experiences become honest conversations.
Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy meaningful discussions like this.
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves and take care of one another.
Bye-bye.